everyone, welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, my name is Angel and today I'll be sharing some more budget-friendly DIYs. For this first project, I wanted to make a Christmas card display, so I'm using 2 of these 12-inch wood pieces from Dollar Tree, and I'm also going to be using 3 of these skewers, also from Dollar Tree, and I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to hot glue one of those skewers about 1/2 inch down on one of the wood pieces, and then I'll hot glue another one at the bottom and in the center. Then I just went ahead and used a damp rag and some of my antiquing wax, and I'm going to go over both of these pieces on the front, the back, and all the sides. Then once that was dry, I went ahead and added some wood glue to all 3 of those skewers, and I'm going to put these pieces together. Then once the wood glue had dried, I went back in and I dry brushed some of my white chalk paint over this entire piece. Now to decorate this, I wanted to do a raised stencil on here, so I'm going to be using this Snowflake stencil that I got from Amazon, and of course I have this link below for you if you are interested, but I'm just going to take some of Dollar Tree spackling and this little Cricut spatula that I also got from Dollar Tree, and I'm going to go ahead and rub this over some of the snowflakes on the stencil that I like. And I'm sure if you've seen any of my other videos, you've probably seen me do this before. I just love the way the raised stencils look. I placed my Christmas cards down in the little center, and after Christmas I'm going to use this as a photo holder. For this next project, I'm going to be using some of these deer antlers that I got from Dollar Tree, and I wish I would have gotten more, but I only had 6 of them. But I'm also going to be using this little birch wood piece, also from Dollar Tree, and what I'm going to do is just go ahead and kind of arrange these around the birch wood piece where I want to put them. Like I said, I wish I would have bought more because they would have looked so much better if I would have had a few more of these, but once I had them arranged where I wanted them, I just went around and marked the spot where I want to put them, and I'm just going to drill holes down in here. Then I was able to just put the deer antlers down in those holes to make this candle holder. I didn't even have to use any glue because they fit down in there nice and snug. However, I did end up taking these back out because I just could not deal with the glitter that was on the deer antlers. So I went in with 1 coat of my white chalk paint and just went over all of these antlers. Then I was able to place them back into the birch wood and just add a candle. For this next project, I'm going to be using this scrap piece of 2x4 that I had, and this measured out around 11.5 inches for this project. I went ahead and just went over this with some of my white chalk paint and just kind of dry brushed over the whole thing. And once it was dry, I decided to use some of my Amazon stamps for this project. I have these linked below for you, but I actually got these in a pack of 95 of them, I believe. But I went ahead and used my Santa stamp, and then I'm going to be using the first piece of this ho 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 stamp, and I'm just going to put this where I want them. Then for the edges of this little sign, I wanted to use some of my gold velvet ribbon. So I just went ahead and did 2 pieces on each side. And then because I felt like there was just too much space between the wording and Santa, I went back in with my little reindeer stamp and added him as well. And finally, I wanted to add some greenery, so I had these pine picks from Amazon, and I thought it would be neat to turn this into a little planter, so I just drilled some little holes in the top of this and added those pine picks. For this next DIY, I picked up this acrylic reindeer from Dollar Tree, and I wanted to give him a sweater, so I also picked up this Chanel hat, and I'm going to go ahead and just cut this down, and we're going to be using just the front piece of this hat. Now, once I had it cut down, I just went ahead and kind of wrapped this around just to try to test out where I wanted this hat to go on the reindeer and just to make sure that it would fit properly. And then once I had it situated kind of where I wanted it, I just went in and hot glued the neck first, and then I started at the legs, and I just went back in and kind of cut this when I needed to. I didn't really cut this down before I put it on him because I didn't want to end up cutting too much. So again, I just kind of went with it and really just hot glued and cut it just as I was going. The main thing I was focused on when wrapping this was making sure that the sweater went all the way around the reindeer so that I could glue where the pieces meet to the backside and you wouldn't be able to see them. And once I got the sweater all the way around to the backside of the reindeer, I would just kind of fold it and tuck it and then hot glue it just to kind of make it look neat, even though no one was going to see it. Now, I ended up going back in and adding a few little pieces of the rolled up pieces that I had left over and adding those right to the bottom of the legs. Now, I did end up changing this in the very end. I added some of my gold velvet ribbon instead. But then finally for this reindeer, I just went in and painted his antlers gold, and then I used some of my rub and buff over top of that. You guys are going to have to forgive me for the lighting in this project because it started storming right as I started filming and I had to turn on my light for this. But I picked up this Christmas sweater at my local thrift store and I thought this would be a really neat idea because you could really do this with any Christmas sweater and it would turn out just as cute. It doesn't have to be this exact one. And actually, I do wish this didn't zip up, but it did, so I just worked with it. I had this frame for a while. It's from a canvas from Walmart. I think it's like a 16 by 20. So I went ahead and stained that with some of my antiquing wax. So as I'm sure you can guess, I want to cut this down and attach it to this frame. So before I do that, I'm just going to lay the frame on top of the sweater and I lightly drew over it with my pencil and then I cut that down and stapled it very tightly to the back of my frame. Now, as you can see, there was definitely some left hanging over. So all I had to do was just go around this and cut all of the excess off. And that was it for this super easy project, and I think it turned out so adorable. And like I said, you could definitely do this with any Christmas sweater. Now, I had the backside of that sweater left over, so I'm going to use this thrifted frame with it. The backside of that sweater also had a little Christmas tree and some snowflakes, so I just used the piece that was already in my thrifted frame, and I'm going to glue this down to that using some spray adhesive. And this is actually just spray adhesive that I got from Dollar Tree, but once I had that sprayed down, all I had to do was just lay this over top where I wanted it, and then let that dry for just a little while. And finally, I just cut off the excess, and what was left hanging over, I just hot glued it right to the back side, and I was able to just pop this right back into the frame. Next up, I'm using another scrap piece of 2x4. This is a piece I had already stained. I had planned to use it for something and completely forgot about it. So I'm using it for this project. So the first thing I did was just go ahead and lightly brush over this entire thing with some of my white chalk paint. Next, I just found the center of this wood piece and I'm going to start making some little marks on here. I wanted to make kind of a zigzag tree on here with some of my velvet ribbon. So once I mark these spots, I'm going to go ahead and drill through there. Now, technically, if you didn't want to drill through this piece of wood, you could definitely just glue your ribbon on in the same zigzag pattern, but once I had the holes drilled through there, I'm just using my little plastic needle to help me push my velvet ribbon through the holes. And as you can see, I ended up drilling 6 holes through here in that zigzag pattern, and once I got my velvet ribbon through the first hole, then I'm just going to poke it right through the very next hole and I will tie those pieces of velvet ribbon in a knot. Now, I ended up having to just do these piece by piece because on the back side of my velvet ribbon, it's a different material. So if you use a ribbon that is the same on the front and the back, you can just continue to thread this through each hole without having to cut the ends and tie them. And as you can see here, once I had that first row done, I'm going to take my ribbon and push it back through the same exact hole that the first piece came out of, and then I'll push it into the third hole. And I just continued doing that all the way down until I got to the bottom. Once I had the velvet ribbon pushed all through there, all the way to the bottom, I wanted to add a little star and a trunk to my tree. So I'm using this star from Dollar Tree and this little birchwood piece also from Dollar Tree, and I just cut that in half so that it would lay flush with the 2x4. I ended up painting the little star with some of my gold metallic paint, and then all I had left to do was just hot glue these pieces to the 2x4 to finish my tree. In this next project, I'm also using another piece of scrap 2x4. This one's a smaller piece, but I wanted to use this gold reindeer or deer head sticker from Dollar Tree. So to start, I painted the little wood piece with some of my white chalk paint, and then I just drew out a J and a Y. It was easy enough to just use my ruler to kind of make these letters, but you could definitely use a stencil or stickers, or if you have a Cricut, you could definitely do that too. But I wanted to spell out joy using that deer head. So once I had these letters cut out, I just laid them on top of my scrap piece of wood, and then I used my pencil to trace these letters onto my wood piece. I just used a really small paintbrush and some of my gold paint to paint these letters. Now, even though the reindeer or deer head sticker seemed to have good adhesive on it, I did add a little bit of hot glue just to make sure that this stayed on there. And finally, just to decorate this a little bit, I added some twine to both of the edges. For the next project, I'm using one of these little wood boards from Dollar Tree, and then some of my half beads. I got these on Amazon, and of course, as always, I have these linked in my Amazon store if you are interested. But these come in 3 different sizes, and I thought it would be super cute to make a snowman using the smaller sizes on top, the middle size in the middle, and then the larger ones for the bottom of my snowman. So I just arranged all the pieces where I wanted them, and then I will just take some hot glue and glue all of these down to the wood board. After I had them all attached, I went in with some of my white chalk paint and painted over this entire thing. I did end up having to go back in with a smaller brush and kind of get into the crevices where the beads were touching the board and I couldn't get with my larger brush. And after it dried, I went back in with my larger fluffy brush and some of my antiquing wax and just went over the edges and over top of those half beads. And finally, just to dress this up a bit, I added some of my gold velvet ribbon to the top and the bottom of this. For the final project, I'm using 3 of these thin wood planks from Dollar Tree. I think these are about 17 or 18 inches long, and I'm using some Dollar Tree wood glue to go ahead and connect all 3 of these, and I will also add a few craft sticks to the back of these just to make sure that it's nice and secure and it's not going to come apart. I painted over the entire little sign that I made with 1 coat of my white chalk paint, and then once that was dry, I'm taking my fluffy brush again and dry brushing over some of my antiquing wax, just where the boards meet and over the edges. Then I just went outside and gathered a few fallen branches from one of my trees, and I'm cutting those down so that I can attach these to the top of the boards. I arranged these how I wanted them and then just used some hot glue to attach all of them to the board and to each other. I wanted this to just look like branches hanging, so I made sure that all the branches were kind of facing the same way. And once I had all the branches attached, I am going to take this board and I'm just going to drill some random holes through here because I want to be able to put lights behind this to light it up. Finally, for this project, I'm using some of this cotton string from Dollar Tree and some Dollar Tree ornaments, and I'm just going to hang all 3 of these from my branches. And that is going to be it for today's video. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the projects, and I'll see you here next week for my final Christmas video.